The Electoral College is under attack. But why should you care? It's an antiquated system anyway. Well, first off, let's talk about how we got here. Under the Articles of Confederation, after the Revolutionary War, each state had one representative in the Continental Congress, so each member state would be represented equally. States were, and still are, considered legally equal to each other, so equal representation made sense. When it was decided that a new constitution must be written, the large population states demanded congressional representation be by population. The low population states disagreed vehemently and said they would sooner leave the Union than placate the tyranny of the majority. The Sherman Compromise, also known as the Great Compromise of 1787, defined the principle of fair and just representation of states at the federal level. Equal state representation concurrently with equal citizen representation. The principle was applied first to our legislative branch, creating our bicameral Congress. The principle was then applied to the way we elect our president, each state getting 2 electoral votes to give each state equal representation, plus a number of votes to give each citizen equal representation. If an Article 5 convention ever happens, this same principle of concurrent equal state and equal citizen representation will more than likely be applied to it as well. These 3 examples epitomize the constitutional principle and its intent. Historically, Democrats have a tendency to pack themselves into cities, and as a result overwhelmingly control the governments of those cities, and win the congressional districts housing those cities by huge margins. As a result, they also lose the majority of rural districts by small margins. This is simple mathematics. The simple mathematical consequence of the decision of Democrats to cluster into cities. Today, half the population of the United States lives in a few densely populated cities. 230 years later, the practicality of the Electoral College and the wisdom of the Founding Fathers seems evident to everyone living outside of those cities. Today, something called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact promises to use the tyranny of the majority to rob less populous states of that little bit of extra representation that the Constitution provides them. If it gets enough states to agree to it, on election night they will cast all the electoral votes for the candidate winning the popular vote. This effectively negates the fair and just representation described in the Constitution, thereby discriminating against all states not in the compact. It also gets rid of swing states and creates swing cities. Systemic discrimination, legal discrimination against a race, a sex, a sexual orientation, a religion, a political party, a specific breed of dog, or a state with a low population is wrong. So wrong, in fact, that our Constitution tried to prevent it through our bicameral Congress and through the way we elect our president. This type of discrimination must be taken very seriously. Interestingly, this compact relies on the very states it's discriminating against to report their numbers of individual votes for each candidate before the compact states can cast their electoral votes. Small states are under no obligation to publish those numbers to the public. They can very easily withhold those numbers until after the electoral votes are cast, as well as outlaw exit polls in their states. Then what will the members of this compact do? So what's the motivation for this legislation? In a word, envy. Mono-ideology states like California and New York are envious of states rich in ideological diversity. Swing states cannot be counted on by any party to vote for them, so they get more campaign events. It simply doesn't make sense to spend campaign dollars on votes you are assured to get. Because the election process in a free and equal country only values ideological diversity, other states are envious and want to take the benefits of ideological diversity away from swing states. Simple. Interstate compacts were intended to deal with issues that cross state boundaries, such as with bridges, radioactive waste, water, and other ecological concerns. They were not intended to allow states to rewrite the Constitution and discriminate against minorities. The U.S. Congress will have to approve this compact if it ever reaches 270 votes. If ever a compact encroached on federal and state sovereignty, this is it. More than likely, if it gets congressional approval, the Supreme Court will have to decide its fate. Regardless of how a state's own winner-take-all laws and gerrymandering have tainted their elections, the ends of this proposal do not justify the means. It is immoral to legally discriminate against small population states. Systemic discrimination against any minority is wrong, and constitutional principles should not be defeated by state compacts. If 75% of the states want a national popular vote, then propose a constitutional amendment. Don't use legal loopholes to allow a few of the states to control the outcome of the elections. This legislation is brutal, unadulterated, unapologetic, systemic discrimination, and it's probably unconstitutional. During the Obama administration, I often heard the phrase, "We all want to be on the right side of history." You have that opportunity now. I'm Tom Graham for Return to Integrity.